What is the Forest Temple? The other dungeons in Ocarina of Time make more sense to me. I mean, they're still mysterious and people have come up with a plethora of theories for all of them, especially the Shadow Temple. But we can kinda connect a certain race to each of the dungeons, except this one. I mean the Gorons for the Fire Temple, the Zora for the Water Temple, the Sheikah for the Shadow Temple, and the Gerudo for the Spirit Temple. You can say, hey, Soraya is the Sage of Forest, making the Forest Temple a Kokiri thing. But is it really? Kokiri are a race of children who never grow up and whose only parental figure was a tree, while the Forest Temple is a fierce, enemy-infested, highly defended fortress. It's certainly no playground. So, how exactly did the Forest Temple come to be? What was it used for? And how is Soraya connected to this magical mansion? That's what we're talking about today, my friends. The structure is clearly Hylian, and let me tell you how I know about that. Look at its architectural similarities to the Temple of Time and Hyrule Castle itself. There's a freaking block of time in there. Not to mention the giant Triforce symbols. Yeah, that's a dead giveaway. But the question remains as to why a Hylian structure would be created so far away from Hyrule. I believe I can sum up the reason the temple exists with one idea: protection. In fact, the entire temple doesn't seem like a temple at all. It seems more like a barracks, a training ground for soldiers. I mean, this place is heavily fortified inside and out. Before you even reach the temple, you must pass an iron gate and navigate a labyrinth of hedges. Once inside, you realize just how thick and tall the walls are, with large central rooms and broad courtyards. The puzzles seem more like challenges of strength and agility than in other dungeons, further suggesting that the area was used to train soldiers. Also, perhaps the most convincing bit of proof is this. No, really. These are called crenellations. These dips and peaks, or embrasures and merlons, are the identifying features of a medieval fortress. They are built to defend. The location of this castle also makes sense if it were used as a training ground. Obviously, the Hylian army doesn't want everyone to know that Hyrule is training an elite force of soldiers. So, they chose a place where they would be shielded from the public eye, a place few would dare to venture. Perhaps the castle was built at or around the time of the Hyrulean Civil War. Hylian? A Hyrulean? I really don't know. I'm sure the comment section will let me know. Anyway, I suggest that this fortress was built during the war because the very first reference to the war is made by the Great Deku Tree Sprout after Link banishes the enemies from the Forest Temple. But if the Forest Temple truly was a barracks during the war, what happened to it? Was it destroyed in the war? Possibly. But I believe something much more sinister took place. The Hylian soldiers chose the wrong place to build a barracks. You came to the wrong neighborhood, boys. You see, the place where they built this fortress is the sacred meadow in which dwelt some sacred beings. We know this because of what Soraya tells us. The forest spirits were calling for help, so I went to check it out. This line tells us two very important things. One, there are forest spirits, and two, Soraya can communicate with them. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. This theory hinges on one idea, that the forest spirits were not so happy that the Hylian soldiers chose their meadow to build a training ground in. I wouldn't be too happy if you built a moat in my living room either, so they chased them out. Well, sort of. They did something a little worse. They changed them into monsters. So, all those Stalfos Link encounters later in the temple, they were the original knights training there. But changing the soldiers in the temple into monsters wasn't enough. To discourage more knights from going to the temple, the spirits also cursed the forest, better known as the Lost Woods, where adult Hylians will wander for eternity and eventually become nothing but bony shadows of their former selves. We learn this fact from Fado the Kokiri. Anybody who comes into the forest will be lost. Everybody will become Stalfos. Everybody, Stalfos. I love just how that is said, everybody, Stalfos. I mean, could it be any clearer? Anyway, But why would a Kokiri know what happens to those who wander in the woods? After all, most Kokiri believe they will die if they leave the forest. So, who told them about the Lost Woods? Maybe the Great Deku Tree, but how would even he know? I believe the spirits of the forest shared this tidbit of news, possibly through Soraya, since she has a history of speaking with them, and she seems to be the only one who can navigate through the Lost Woods to the temple. She has no problem getting there. In fact, the game tells us it is her favorite spot to be alone, meaning she goes there often, despite Keipora Gebora's statement that few people have ever walked there. But if the soldiers in the temple became Stelthos, who are the other monsters that overran the temple during the events of Ocarina of Time? The answer is simple. The Poe sisters. Well, they've been there for 7 years, actually. The problem is they fell under the control of Ganondorf along with his phantom. And then that begs the question, who are the Poe sisters? The thing is, we don't get much information about them. We know that they were real people and that they're real dead, but who they were is a mystery. My guess is that they were the relatives or loved ones of the soldiers in the barracks who hung photos of them on the walls. But who knows? Maybe I'll do a deep dive into what others have theorized about them in a future video. You can also leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll call you out if I talk about your comment in the next video about this topic, so pretty cool. What we do know is that the Poe sisters started doing the nasty business of serving Ganondorf, and therefore had to be stopped. And the forest spirits knew it. But what do you think of my theory? Do you think the forest temple was really a training ground for Hylian soldiers? Do you think the forest spirits chased them out and placed a curse on the woods to prevent outsiders from trying to come in again? Let me know in the comments. And please, like and subscribe. It means a lot. Have a good day, friends. See ya.